Welcome to Half-Life 2, Episode 1. We received a great deal of positive feedback on the commentary track in The Lost Coast, and so we've included the same feature in this episode. To listen to a commentary node, put your crosshair over the floating commentary symbol and press your use key. To stop a commentary node, put your crosshair over the rotating node and press the use key again. Some commentary nodes may take control of the game in order to show something to you. In these cases, simply press your use key again to stop the commentary. With episodic content, we are hoping to release games much more frequently than has been possible with the monolithic development schedules of the past. Game developers and game customers have been wanting to try this for years. Please let me know what you think after you've had a chance to play this, our latest installment in the ongoing adventures of Gordon Freeman. I can be reached at gayben@valvesoftware.com. Thanks, and have fun.
Tell me, Dr. Freeman, if you can. You have destroyed so much. What is it exactly that you have created? Can you name even one thing? I thought not.
We used an upgrade of the refract shader from Half-Life 2 to make the Vortigaunts warp into the intro. The major difference is that this time we are only refracting pixels that come from the Vortigaunts themselves. We placed a large sheet of refractive geometry in front of each Vortigaunt to achieve this effect.
This intro sequence establishes some important initial pieces of Episode 1's story and setting. Our earlier versions of the intro sequence were heavy on graphic effects and relatively light on storytelling. When we showed those early versions to playtesters, they thought it was cool, but rarely had any idea what was supposed to be happening. We went through several iterations, each time simplifying the editing and tightening up the effects. We eventually arrived at a good middle ground between the sort of psychedelic look we were shooting for and basic comprehension of what was actually taking place.
We'll see about that.
He has to be somewhere around here. Any luck, dog? Dog, I think I found something. Drop what you're doing and help me over here. Oh my God! Gordon! I was so worried.
Hey, the gravity gun. Give it to him, dog.
Dog's happy to see you, I can tell. Okay, dog. Go get the monitor set up so we can check in with my dad. He must be worried sick about us. He was so sure I wouldn't find you here.
The Citadel's really coming apart. I still don't know how we got out of there. The last thing I remember is him falling. Huge explosion, and then I heard Vortigaunts. Next thing I knew, Dog was digging me out of the rubble. Oh, it's all so strange. Well, we should...
Alyx, come in.
It's my dad.
We've been trying to reach him for hours.
Players love
We only
Dog,
hears that we
so we
found
made sure
you.
that he was the first thing you see when you wake up in Episode 1. We also wanted players to get a glimpse of the crippled Citadel. When Dog lifts you out of the rubble, it's one of the few instances in the game when we take control of the player's view. This allowed us to ensure the player's view lingered briefly on the Citadel before Dog set them down.
The Citadel is supposed to be a building of unprecedented scale. So out of scale with the rest of the world, in fact, that we couldn't render it without our 3D skybox technology. This technology allows us to build the Citadel as a 1/16th scale model off in an unreachable corner of the map, and seamlessly merge it into the scene. We also use this technology to create the illusion of vast spaces and distant horizons.
Since we never take control away from the players, it can be a real pain to get them to notice important environmental events. It's a constant design challenge for us. The Citadel will be erupting in a massive light show that took 10 of us 2 months to orchestrate, and if we're not careful, the player will end up facing the other direction staring at a tire. In this case, to establish that the Citadel is coming apart at the seams, we wanted the player to notice the debris falling off of it. We used a pretty straightforward method here. Alyx explicitly mentions the Citadel while pointing at it. Like most of these solutions, it's not foolproof, but it has a high success rate.
This area was redesigned several times in order to keep the player in this space while Alyx delivers some exposition. As much as we hated to do it, the final solution was to have Alyx climb out while the player looks for an alternate route. We portray Alyx as more athletic and nimble than Gordon, so players shouldn't get too irritated by the fact that she can get to places they can't. Honestly, we're not especially happy with this crutch, but it's a trade-off we sometimes have to make so that we can get Alyx out of the way of interesting player challenges.
Dad.
Right off the bat, we needed to hammer home some story points, reintroduce the cast of characters,
Hold on a sec, there's
and
so much
explain the
interference.
player's immediate goal.
Hey,
It
Doc,
was a
give me
pretty
hand with
intimidating
this.
chunk of non-interactive exposition. We generally approach these scenes by writing way too much, and then through constant playtesting, trimming the scene
Little to
to
the
more
right.
manageable
There we
levels.
go, hold it there.
But in this
We
case,
got it.
even after some heroic
Dad.
pruning,
Alyx,
the
where
opening
are
scene
you?
still felt too long.
Please,
We ended up splitting the introductory sequence into three
Well, not
scenes,
quite yet.
separated
But
by
listen,
some
Dad, we
gravity gun
found him.
puzzle
You
solving,
found Gordon?
and then a dramatic walk across a crumbling ledge.
But listen, you two have to get out of the
When we
city.
designed the Half-Life 2
Citadel
facial
could
system back in
blow at
2000,
any moment.
our goal was to get a natural-looking performance at a moderate distance. Given our real-time polygon and texture budgets, we chose fairly reserved or constrained performances over ever having the actors' faces get into a bad-looking, more unnatural expression. For Episode 1, we wanted to extend the character's facial system to support more intense performances with a wider range of facial expressions that would hold up better at close range. These facial improvements included increasing the detail around the eyes and mouth, increasing the number of facial shape targets, think of these as movements of muscle groups, by about 50%, rewriting the rules that control how these shapes blend, and increasing the intensity of many of our existing shapes. In addition, we added support for controlling the amplitude of the facial movement for lip sync animation, which let us dampen or amplify the mouth shapes based on the volume or intensity of the dialogue.
Yes, but it's far too dangerous to consider.
Monitor
The chamber
scenes
will
are
be
especially
bathed
difficult
in
to make
radiation.
interesting,
Well,
since
you
they
do
tend to
have
involve
hazards.
literally just talking
Found a
heads.
way into the
By
Citadel.
interweaving
It's
critical
possible.
expository
Alyx, no.
information,
But Dad,
like how dangerous
Izzy,
the Citadel
talk
has
some
become,
sense into
with some
her.
dramatic
I'm
character
sorry,
interaction
but I
between
don't
Alyx,
see any
Eli,
other
and Dr.
way.
Kleiner,
It
we
would
were able to
help us
convert a
evacuate
potential
more
liability
citizens.
into
We
one of
can
the
do
strongest
this,
scenes
Dad.
in the game. A great way to illustrate characters' relationships to each other is to have one of the characters in danger and show the other's
Promise me
reaction
that you
to it,
won't take
which
a
is what this scene
single
is all about.
unnecessary risk.
I promise. I love you.
Sometimes we need to keep the player in an area so that we can deliver some critical dialogue or run an important
I'll see you
sequence of
soon.
events. In these cases, we temporarily block the player's path using what we call a gate. These gates generally take the form of some obstacle that can only be removed or opened by some
Let's see if we
character
can
or
find a way
event.
into the Citadel from
In this
somewhere
case,
along
the
way.
obstacle is a crashed gunship that can only be moved out of the way by dog.
Dog, a little help,
So the final
please?
scene looks pretty straightforward. A lot of care had to be taken to make sure the dog hit his marks and played his sequences without trampling and damaging the player.
Okay, boy. Pack up and meet us on the far
Alyx
side
travels
of this
through
ridge.
much of Episode 1 with the player, and consequently passes through a wider variety of
Whoa.
lighting conditions than she did in
What a
Half-Life
drop.
2. This meant that we had to improve the
Gordon.
quality of the lighting algorithms used on Alyx to look realistic in any situation, from the eerie hallways of the Citadel to the streets of City 17 at sunset. For this episode, we added a specular lighting term to the shaders used on Alyx, which provides a realistic shiny look to her skin, her leather jacket, and even her teeth. In these new lighting calculations, we chose to specifically emphasize bright highlights caused by illumination from grazing angles. This type of lighting, also referred to as rim lighting, is particularly dramatic when coming from low-angle light sources such as this bright sunset. You'll also note that the rim lighting is further enhanced by our high dynamic range post-processing, which causes the specular highlights to bloom in a striking and dramatic fashion. We have found that the move to an episodic development cycle allows us to take advantage of the fast pace of graphics hardware innovation by incrementally adding new features, such as Alyx's new lighting techniques, to the source engine with each new episode.
This ledge is a really tricky spot for NPCs to navigate. While we wanted Alyx to be able to maneuver dynamically through any complex environment, In certain navigation situations, we're faced with a trade-off between flexibility and visual quality. In this particular case, she navigates the ledge with a combination of AI and scripted animations. We've continued to evolve the systems of Half-Life 2 whereby characters move fluidly through dynamic AI and scripted navigation, but ultimately what matters most is how it looks to the player.
Our games are created by design collectives that we call cabals. When the idea to have you and Alyx sit in a van and then have Dog toss it across the gorge was first suggested during a cabal meeting, everyone thought it was funny, and then we moved on to more serious solutions for the gorge crossing. As the design progressed, though, we kept coming back to the van idea, and eventually everyone agreed that we should give it a try. Even though the idea was kind of outrageous, it satisfied some key goals we had for the scene. Alyx and the player get across the impassable gorge, and Dog is able to play a key role in the mission, while also plausibly getting left behind. There were still some problems to solve, though. Attaching animated models to the van was tricky, making sure the van didn't kill the player took some thought, and it took a number of tries before we were able to really illuminate Dog's thinking, as he went from testing his idea with chunks of debris to finally presenting the plan to Alyx. Ultimately, we were able to create a scene that solved some tricky game design issues, provided an intimate view of the relationship between Alyx and Dog, and delivered a surprising and visceral entrance to the Citadel.
There has to be a way to get across. But how? Dog? Something I said? Huh? Dog, what are you... I think Dog needs a few bullets tightened. Look out!
It's really important to us to create scenes that
Really?
showcase
That was
strong
really
relationships
close.
between our characters.
What's gotten into you?
The relationship between Alyx and Dog
exactly
seems to be
is this
especially satisfying to players. In the scene leading up to the van chase, we had a bug before the animation was complete, where Dog's head would shake as he looked back at Alyx. In a happy accident, his head shook right after she asked him, "You did do the math, right?" In playtests, players thought this was intentional and always laughed. Because of that, we worked it into the animation, and it ended up being a terrific little moment between Dog and Alyx.
I want you to get out of here as fast as you can. Go find Dad. We'll catch up, don't worry. All right. I'll miss you too. Now, don't worry about me. I'll see you soon. Brace yourself, baby. Okay, Dog, let's do it. Before I change my... Okay. Careful, hold on. Whoa. Phew. Whew. Good throw, Dog. Now go, boy, go on. You'll be fine, just... Uh-oh. What now? Whoa. Hold on. Phew. All right, let's get off before the next ride starts.
To convey a sense of urgency, we originally designed Alyx to nag the player pretty frequently. She'd say things like, "Hurry up, and keep moving." Whether or not this created a sense of urgency is debatable, but after about 3 minutes of this, the one thing it definitely did was make the player hate Alyx. This was one of the observations that eventually led us to switch Alyx from generally leading the players to almost always following. Through playtesting, we discovered that players much preferred to set the pace themselves, and that they especially disliked virtually any hint of bossiness from Alyx.
This is unbelievable. I had
We populate our environments with spots where players can take a break to look out over an expanse of cool scenery. We call these vistas. This particular vista was designed to give anyone familiar with the Citadel interior from Half-Life 2 a good view of what it looks like now that everything's falling apart. The pods that are sliding off their track and into the abyss really sell the idea that the Citadel is half abandoned and in chaos.
In an early version of this map, Alyx led the player through the whole thing. To make Alyx seem less omniscient, we had her access a console here to get her bearings. It exploded, which helped drive home the point that the Citadel was in bad shape, but generally, it was a long pause in the action without a lot of payoff. After we made the high-level decision to have Alyx follow the player, this entire scene became irrelevant, and we happily cut the whole thing. Training is one of the fundamental tenets of our design philosophy. Before the player is required to utilize some new game mechanic, or new weapon, or face a new monster under pressure in a dangerous situation, we always introduce the concept in a relatively calm, but ideally still entertaining way. This entire scene teaches the player that Alyx can convert roller mines so that they can be used as a friendly weapon. Later, the player is required to do this in more pressing circumstances, but at this point, everything's still pretty calm. In the original design, the player retrieved the roller mine from the dispenser and used it to take out a combine soldier who was holding the field from the other side. Eventually, we scrapped that idea and combined the roller mine training with some stalker exposition that originally occurred in a separate scene.
In a good puzzle, the player is presented with an overall goal, and then faces a number of smaller challenges in pursuit of that goal. In the case of the stalker puzzle, we start with, how do I open the door? From there, we move to, how do I get to the stalker? Then, how do I get to the roller mine? How do I get the roller mine back to Alyx? And finally, how do I use the roller mine to disable the stalker?
Dad taught me how to reset the targeting system on these things. A little extra juice in the right spot, and it's on our side. I'll hold it out where I can work on it. There it is. It's a lot more unstable, but it should last long enough to take out the stalker. Okay. We can get through now. Let's go.
We wanted to create an atmosphere of urgency in the Citadel, with Alyx and the player focused on getting to the core to stop the impending collapse. Initially, we tried to reflect that urgency through Alyx's behavior and acting. This proved to be unsustainable, however. If the player didn't choose to advance, Alyx eventually ran out of lines or animations and was forced into her very non-urgent idle states. We found that the best approach was for Alyx to have such implicit trust in and sympathy with the player that she's always content to proceed at whatever pace the player chooses. Once we adopted this principle, lines where Alyx sounded impatient or frustrated with the pace of progress quickly stood out and were cut.
We created a new Citadel destruction set of broken Combine panels and prefabs for the interior spaces to help make the Citadel look like a common version exploded.
We also introduced a strong ambient orange color to help sell the fact that the Citadel was in a much different state from the last time the player passed through. The orange atmosphere was justified due to all the fires and smoke inside the Citadel.
The primary goal of the first Citadel map is to communicate to players that the Citadel is falling apart. The Vortex was a late addition to the map, in an effort to beef up the idea that the Citadel was becoming a very dangerous place. We had particular difficulty in conveying the danger zone here. In early playtests, players thought that the entire bridge was dangerous at all times. Some additional effects work helped let players know where the dangerous areas were. We would have loved to base more gameplay on this Vortex idea, but we just didn't have the time.
We decided this space needed to look unique and appear to have more significance than the rest of the Citadel areas the player had already traveled through, while at the same time feeling as though it was still made with Combine technology. This room introduces a story point that plays a big role in Episode 2, so the player has to feel like something important is going on in here. A different fog setting, as well as different light styles and configurations, helped achieve this. The red lighting is a good contrast to the traditional blue-green colors of the Citadel.
The portal destination is untenable. Surely you can set the relay elsewhere. There's no way I can survive in that environment.
Oh my god, it's just another recording.
The host body must be joking. I can't possibly. Oh, all right, damn it, if that's what it takes. Just hurry, he's right behind me. Shh.
We revealed the pod here to let players see it up close. At the same time, we didn't want players to get too good a look at what's inside. An old version of the scene had the pod simply hanging from the ceiling. It would burst open and then charge up your gravity gun, but not do much else. The current scene gives us a much more dramatic reveal of the pod and an opportunity to introduce the mind blasts it's capable of emitting. Though they don't play a large role in Episode 1, these guys were a functional requirement of Episode 2, which meant we effectively had to ship a piece of that episode.
It's important that the player has some empathy for Alyx, rather than seeing her as just a bullet-spitting robot. The brief recovery scene after the pod mind attack reminds the player that Alyx is also affected by events in the world.
Gordon? What's going on in there?
Confiscation field engaged.
Hey, it's doing something to the gravity gun. It looks like it did in Breen's portal reactor.
I'd say illegal counter-resonance singularity device detected. Deploy.
It stays that way.
Defect.
The light bridge ball sockets are a clear example of our training approach to new gameplay elements. We train the players with a leading example, confirm they understand the concept, then switch up the problem set and make them use it in a new way. The first bridge shows players the solution, the second one confirms they understand it, and the third, knowing they understand the gameplay mechanic, challenges them in a new way using that mechanism. Impending destruction is a recurring theme in the Citadel. From story, mood, and the visual standpoints, this changes the Citadel. The destruction needed to feel natural rather than entirely scripted upon the player's actions. Not showing the disruptive events dynamically makes the player assume the level of damage is static. However, if the events are too obviously triggered by player movement, the destruction feels scripted. We found the solution was to give players glimpses of things that were happening at the periphery of the player space, as well as in their immediate vicinity, to give the feeling that stuff is happening whether the player is present or not. Having trained the player that balls fit into sockets, we wanted to introduce a puzzle where the question was how to get a ball into the socket. The puzzle we came up with involved a socket with an object blocking it, so that the player would have to ricochet a ball into place. This sounded simple until we actually tried to implement it. If we made the covering opaque, playtesters didn't realize that there was a socket behind it. When we made it translucent, they often didn't see it was there, and were confused when their shot bounced off. Making it movable was a red herring, making people think that they could actually knock it away. A couple of subtle art changes helped. We added some more prominent shadowing and made the glass panel flash when it was hit with a ball. Some playtesters consistently searched for a position to get a direct shot, which we didn't discourage as an alternate solution.
There are some little practical details that take a surprising amount of time and testing to get just right. For instance, it took us many playtests to figure out just how fast Alyx should move. It turns out that her falling behavior looks and feels the best when she's moving faster than the player's normal speed, but slower than the player's sprint speed.
This dropship scene was another case where we had to be clever about drawing the player's attention to something cool that was about to happen, which the player could easily miss if they weren't looking in the right direction. We used a solitary soldier firing at the player to draw their attention to where the dropship climbs into view. Once the player notices the dropship, there's a good chance they'll watch it until the payoff when it crashes.
This is where some player training pays off. After earlier training players on the use of ball sockets, they get a sort of live fire test here starting the elevator. This is the beginning of the level's puzzle arc, where a basic gameplay mechanic is made increasingly more complex by layering other puzzle elements on it. The first puzzle only requires that the player find a combine ball and put it in the socket.
Gordon. Do what you did last time.
Here we're presenting the player with a now familiar ball socket challenge, but we're also bridging into some new training, showing the player that stalkers can destroy the Combine energy balls.
Late in development, we changed the art for these doors so that players understood they were entering the core area. It turned out that having Alyx talk about the area wasn't enough to give playtesters the sense that they'd finally arrived at the core.